All right. Hello. Happy Friday. Welcome on back. Uh, it's been a busy morning already, and just wanted to take a break on lunch, and it is my lunch break, so don't worry. Oh, and a temple. Nice. So, but anyways, just wanted to kind of do a follow up with what I did this morning. I started talking about how, like, there's not really any evil people, and I was actually about to start hanging up some signs and stuff in the base, so I forgot we were exploring, but we'll continue to explore and talk about this. So basically, what I mean by there's no evil people is we like to think that it's a clear cut problem of, oh, there's a certain type of person that's just bad, that they're just going to create problems or, commit crimes or hurt people. And really, what it mostly is people don't understand their actions have consequences. And now that's a pretty vague term, but they might not understand the extent of their decisions, basically. And this is especially true when you get into like politicians and wealthy people and the things that they think might not cause such a ripple or such a horrible effect to people down the line, but it does. And growing up, so I'm from Buena Vista originally. It's a small mountain town up in the middle of the mountains of Colorado. And we know that kind of mentality very well because we're very centered on river rafting, and everything that flows down from Leadville we deal with, and everything that flows down from BV Salida deals with. And so there's a lot of focus on keeping the water clean and trying to keep like trash and sewage and all that stuff out of the rivers, and just keeping that ecosystem taken care of. I mean, because that is like the tourism of river rafting is basically what funds Buena Vista. Like most people either work in the prison or they worked for the service industry for river rafting or I guess skiing in the winters, even though when you get that far up in the mountains, you're kind of away from the main ski areas. Like there's still Monarch Mountain, which I actually worked there for 3 seasons as well. Um, and and yeah, and that was just part of the economy up there. Is people didn't really go there to live or to, I mean, it was just like a destination for a vacation. There's also a bunch of like wilderness stuff, a lot of like guides and four wheeling and snowmobiling and stuff like that. Oh shoot, I should have gotten a boat. Let's make a boat real quick. Let's just get this tree. Huh, the only tree out here. So, but anyways, a lot of problems in the world go back to communication, and I honestly believe that. Like from what I've seen and what I've observed and learned, that it's not so much that people are evil, and same with religion and politics too. Like there's so many things that are already set in motion that it's hard to kind of pivot and shift, and that's why we don't see a lot of change in politics, especially that, and also, oh, I guess we didn't need to cut down that tree. Whoops. Oh well. Um, so basically, what am I trying to say there? So, almost every bad person is just a person who's having a bad day, or like it's not necessarily like they wake up and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go mess with people or I'm gonna go make someone's life hard. It's almost never like that unless they're having a really bad day. Like, because, a lot of people, especially in America, grow up learning about superheroes, like to catch the bad guys, to catch the criminals, the robbers, and then you never really understand the backstory of that criminal or robber. Like, maybe there is Jean Valjean, and we have Les Miserables, which is a play. It's an opera, and I've seen that down. I haven't done a lot of fancy things, but I did see Les Miserables down at the Buell down in Denver. And it's an amazing story. It's about Jean Valjean who stole a loaf of bread to feed his family, and he was punished severely. And it's just this whole story about how crime and punishment and just kind of like, and this is old too. This is an old French like story. And yet people hear that and they nod their head. They're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then the very next day they can find themselves be like, oh, catch that drug dealer or that criminal or that, druggie or hippie or, or that thief or, and I get it. Like stealing from another person is probably one of the worst things that you can do. And even in the prison system or corrections or, halfway houses, jail, all that, the people that steal, and I hate that I keep calling them thieves because that really pigeonholes people into that box that, and actually we can go ahead and go. We'll just leave this and one day I might stumble upon it and be like, oh yeah, I remember I was here. But we have our boat, we can go ahead and go. And I replanted a few of the trees, left it better than I found it. In a way. But like that is kind of a big Colorado thing since we do have so many people that like to go up into the mountains and go experience nature, like the majesty of the mountains, and oh, it's beautiful. And I was fortunate enough to grow up with that kind of view. But also, there was responsibility on all of us to, while we were out there running around and experiencing all that, we would really look down upon somebody littering, like that was a horrible thing. Like you could almost like, I think people would be more okay if you just like walked up and slapped somebody than if you dropped some piece of trash on the ground. Like I think they'd be more offended if you if you littered, because then it's like, it's a disrespect. It's a sign of disrespect to the people that live there and see it every day. Whereas to people that are just visiting, they might be like, oh, I don't see the big problem with this, someone will just pick it up, which in the city is true. You have street sweepers, you have vehicles that drive up and down and actually clean the roadways and stuff, whereas with small towns you don't have that kind of resource. I mean, and this is just something, it's one of those like blind spots for people too. Because again, that person that threw that piece of trash on the ground, they probably weren't like thinking, I hate these people. Like, your town's stupid. I hate you. Your face is stupid. And, but that's how it comes out. Like, that's how people feel. It's like, oh, is that all you disrespect us like that? That's all you think about us? Like, so, and people internalize and personalize things, myself included. I'm a people. We all do it. It's part of human psychology. And like I mentioned last time, I've taken quite a few psychology classes. The same one a lot of times, but you can bet that I really learned basic psychology. And, and there's more people that study it more in depth and can tell you like, a percentage of like the chance or the probability of how likely somebody is to do something, to maybe commit a crime or to act in a certain way based on their demographic, their background, like their social status, their economic status, all of these things, because it does affect you. Like you're more likely to be in a good mood more often if you have money. It's a sad state of things, but like if you have money, you don't have worries. Like you don't have to worry about stealing bread to feed your family. I mean, thank goodness nobody has to do that anymore. Like we do have, I mean, to a point, we do have food centers, food banks. Sorry. And I actually signed up for a food bank once upon a time because I was spending what little money I had on drinking really alcohol, and that's why I only went to the food bank once, I think, because after that I felt so guilty. I was like, you know what, I can just quit drinking for a while and spend the money I need to spend on food and stuff. And because I was working, I always had a job, like almost my entire life since I was able to work. I worked so I could pay for the frivolous things that I wanted to do, the stupid things that teenagers buy and whatnot. And like, I think some of mine was like, movies, and anyways, it doesn't matter. But like understanding money and understanding needs versus wants and stuff that, young people are figuring out. But then you throw into the mix like the war on drugs, and that's just a huge thing. And perspectives too, because I don't know. People feel less likely to, or people are less likely to feel guilt if they can rationalize an action in their mind somehow. For instance, if you're going to steal from somebody that drives like a Lamborghini and, you see them drive their Lamborghini to a big old mansion while you're going home to your little hut with, your beat up junker car that barely works, and, your kids don't get the finest things, and for whatever reason put you in that situation, your family's decisions, your decisions, or society's decisions, because it's not all, you and your family. Like, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions we have in society today is, oh, the avocado toast argument. Like, they should just stop eating so much avocado toast. And that's a very messed up comment made probably by some people that had no idea. Like, oh, they already made sacrifices. Like, they don't make much money. They use hand-me-down clothes. Like, their parents aren't there all the time, often because of the war on drugs or depression or death or whatever. I mean, it's just a big thing. It's like if you put someone in prison, you're putting their whole family on hold for that time. And a lot of people are figuring that out and realizing that we made so much money off of prisons and hired people. And then that goes back to the Indiana Jones thing. So if we do end the war on drugs, what we need to do is we need to figure out jobs and income or some way to help the people that are going to lose their jobs, because prisons are going to empty. Basically, they're just going to not exist for the most part. I mean, the biggest reason we have inmates of any kind is the war on drugs, either directly or indirectly related to a substance crime. So, I mean, maybe somebody didn't have money because they spent all their money on treatment classes. So they go out and they steal something. Like, there you go. That was indirectly related to effects of the war on drugs. Now, and the biggest thing for me is just pointing out that if you grow weed, just as bad as cooking crystal meth because the way that they schedule it is weed has always been a Schedule 1 drug. One of the worst, it is the worst. That's how the ranking goes. Schedule 1 is there's no medicinal benefit, it's dangerous, and all of this stuff. Like, I mean, and that's just how I've seen it. Now, granted, most judges and lawyers and stuff, they wouldn't actually throw the book at you, but they could because it's, as far as they're concerned, it's Schedule 1. It's the worst of the worst. So it's like first degree murder. Like, I mean, if you get a first degree versus a third degree murder, one's definitely a lot better than the other as far as your sentencing and your punishment. So, and then it's like, you got all these other people that they got to justify it and they got to get on board. They're like, well, we agree it's a little messed up, but what are we going to do with it? And part of that is the revenue loss from alcohol companies and businesses. Because again, that employs a lot of people. That's their livelihood. That's how they pay their expenses. That's how they keep a roof over their family's head. That's how they live. Like they make their living with the alcohol industry. And there's a lot of them. I used to work in the alcohol industry. I used to develop software for it. Well, actually, I was more like a glorified IT tech, which had I known that at the time, I probably would have liked it a lot more because I love helping people. Like, I think there's nothing greater than helping people with tech. I mean, it's hard because you get a lot of frustration, and sometimes I'm not on my best behavior because maybe I'm having a bad day. Like today, I got a water heater guy coming to take a look because I've been taking cold showers for like 2 weeks. Not because nothing, no one's real fault. I wanted to make sure the place was cleaned up and presentable because I figured my landlord might need to come over and then, make sure he knows that I've been keeping good, taking care of this place, which even though, it could be cleaner. It's not terrible, but it could be cleaner. Anyways, and then especially if there was going to be a tech to come look at the water heater, that means that I had to clear out, any of the stuff in front of there and like, not that there's a lot right next to it. That makes it sound like there's a fire hazard. Anyways, through no fault of anyone, I've been taking cold showers for a couple of weeks, and I prefer that to what I ended up doing. Finally, I did clean, and we got a guy coming, or a person coming this afternoon. Might be a gal, I don't know. So I got to keep my eye out for that. But anyways, back to the nobody's really fault. Nobody is really at fault completely for just about anything. Like, yeah, maybe in that moment you did the action, you pulled the trigger, you hit somebody, you drove that car drunk, whatever. And that part gets tricky. But yeah. But then what about all the things leading up to that? The other factors, like the real or perceived, because it doesn't even matter if it's real. Perception is reality, and by that I mean you might not be poor. Like I used to think that I grew up poor, like, until I met some people that weren't as well off as I was. And I was like, "Oh, my bad. I was wrong. I was dumb for thinking this way." And not like dumb, like I'm a dumb person for life. Like, we got to try not to pigeonhole ourselves in that. I was just sorely mistaken on what my status was economically. I mean, we weren't no high class, but we had a roof, we had a house, cars. I bought my own car with cash because I worked for it. But I mean, I also took shortcuts too. I slanged bud, like sold drugs. I mean, and don't worry, the government is well aware of my actions, and I have since paid a price for it. But no, I mean, as far as that goes, like, even selling weed, like, there's never any money in it. Like, you're really just doing it so you don't have to pay for it. And that's like about anybody ever does it for. And again, another big misconception. People think that, oh, if they sell drugs, then they must have tons of money and it's not fair. And it's okay for the police and the government to take everything they own. And that goes back to something I saw Biden say. I mean, back when he had hair, and I've said it before, like, people change, and it's not fair to keep them, hold them to the same standard of their younger self. But it is concerning because somebody that I voted for, and I was all like excited, I was more excited that just Trump didn't get it. Like, I think that's what it is. It's like, I didn't expect, grand, fancy things from Biden. I just expected that the wealthy would stop getting so many breaks. But then even that, like, I got a good buddy who's a huge Trump supporter, and we talk, and I understand where the rich people are coming from to a point. I mean, I think if they understood like the resulting actions of what happens with all this, then they might be slower to be making these decisions. But anyways, Like for a lot of these business owners and company owners, they do need to make a bunch of hard decisions because otherwise their company could go under, out of business. Like they could be without a job, all their employees could be without a job. Like it's not that they're just out there just making these decisions because they want to screw over the poor people. They want to look out for their people, but it's then when you see these giant payouts, like, there's people starving on the streets even though they work 40 hours or whatever. Like, it's not that the people aren't capable of doing these things. It's just literally impossible for them at that time. And there's very little understanding to it, to where, I don't know, it's a vicious cycle. And I think the more people understand that, and they are too, this isn't like some earth shattering revelations that I'm saying. Like almost everybody is getting on the same page here. I mean, if anything, the only reason I do a lot of this is to keep like letting people know and catching everybody up. Like, and then I'm going to start streaming and start organizing people, be like, all right, hey, what are our problems? What do we got going on and how can we fix it? Like be an advice person, or especially with tech too. I could give a lot of advice about tech, cybersecurity in general, but I'm also very avid about hunting people that are trying to steal because even though they might think that, oh yeah, Americans have all this money and they're all rich and everything, no, quite the opposite. And a lot of the people that are victims of these scams are the elderly, which need extra protection. And all cultures, at least somewhat, respect their elders more. It's human nature because you want to give thanks and gratitude to the people that are responsible to your life, your existence, your happiness, your misery too. I mean, whether they intended it or didn't intend to, a lot of times they're partially responsible. So, but either way, and then political leaders too. Like it's such a nonsense. Like, sorry, I'm trying not to cuss, but I feel like a lot of the terms I'm trying to do involve swear words. So, which is good. Like YouTube is very good about editing things. I think let a swear word slip once, and they're automated processes, which again, I love it. Tech. I understand. Probably could even tell you how they do it too, if we had some time. But yeah, we got all the time in the world. Anyways, it's a lot. And I think for a lot of times people just avoid it because it's too much. Like it's too much and too fast and it's scary. It's like the way that communication has even evolved in my lifetime. It went from having like a little flip phone where you had to spend 10 cents a text, which would drive my parents nuts. Like I thought it was cool. Like I could talk to my friends and everything. Like I actually had more of a connection with people. And in BV, a tiny little town, that is pretty big because it's like already there's only like 2,000 people there. And then, oh, wait. No, there's no way I'll get an armadillo for the whole way, but at least I know this savannah's here. But no, and that's how like kids today, like they're going through so many changes and so many things, and like, but yet at the same time, so many ways to solve these problems. Like it's still way better than when, even our parents and our parents' parents had it, because like misunderstandings that would cause, like specifically, I'm thinking of the Hatfields and the McCoys. It's a story from American history back during the Civil War, where these two families went to war with each other because they were just fed up with each other. They lived next to each other. Like I think one like killed a pig that was the other people, or they stole it or something, or they took shortcuts with each other because they thought, well, forget these people. They're rich, they're fancy, like they can afford it. They won't miss it. When in fact they felt the same way about the other family. Like, oh, these people living so fancy and everything. Why can't we live that fancy? And then through a series of miscommunications and misunderstandings, there was an all-out family war, and I think they started like killing each other. And I'm pretty sure that was around the same time as the Civil War. And even that, like, if you look at the problems of the Civil War, like the main thing is, slavery is what a lot of people cite. And that is true. That was one of the biggest factors. But if you look at the underlying issues, like you have all this industry in the South, but it was centered around slaves, like kidnapping people. And I'm definitely not saying it was okay, and far from it. But people trying to live outside of their means, thinking that that's what they were supposed to do, and they weren't successful unless they did this like high level of success, which impaired a lot of people, specifically the people that got kidnapped and brought over here, and then forced to do hard labor. That's probably the worst of it. Is like you get plucked from your home, taken from all your family and friends. Your life as you knew it is over. Like you are now a prisoner to do work, hard labor. Like no, I sympathize a lot for that whole time. Like, and we need to stop it from happening now. which guess what? It's still happening, but on a much smaller scale. You have prison labor. Now, prison labor is used a lot to build things, to pick up trash, to do all these things. And yeah, you get some time commuted from your sentence. But if you look at the reason that they're even there in the first place, most of them are for nonviolent crimes that only really affected themselves, and then they got caught. Substance use. So I don't know. It all goes back to that, and I could talk for days on that, and I will. So, but anyways, for now, I think my lunchtime is almost up, and let's see. Yeah, we got a couple more minutes, but so what do we do about it? Well, we're doing it, and that's the biggest thing I think that people need to hear is that all of these solutions are in progress. Like many states are legalizing cannabis. That's the first step. If you legalize cannabis, not decriminalize it, because it's if you just decriminalize it, that still implies that it's a bad, negative thing to do. When in reality, you're probably one of your worst versions of yourself if you're drinking a lot, because then your brain literally gets shut off when you're drinking to where you decide if something's a bad decision or not. Like, how bad can this get, or who's going to have a bad day because of my decision here? That's something that you just stop caring about when you start drinking. You don't even have it on your radar to be concerned or empathetic of other people. Whereas with cannabis, that's like all you do. It gives you time to slow down, think, and be like, wait, how does this affect the people around me? How does this affect the people that I care about? And that's like it forces you to feel empathy, and it forces you to laugh and relax and eat food and all that stuff. Sorry, I also keep checking because these headphones, even though I think they sound a little better than my other ones, they also block out a lot of sound. So I'm like kind of waiting for person. That's okay. I'll be jumping off here soon. And I would have heard a doorbell. I'm just excited to be taking a hot shower again soon. And that's the excitement of my day. And I'm pretty decently well off now. Like, I'm not rich, but I have a good job. I make decent money. And even if this job, God forbid, goes away, or creator forbid, there you go. You know, even if it does, I have the skills and the reputation now. I think I could get another one pretty easily. But still, there were a few times there where I was in between jobs, layoffs and stuff, or not meeting the qualifications. Like, I remember one, it was ridiculous. Like, they kept having these ways to justify layoffs themselves. They would have a meeting, they would rate you and all that. But then it's like, if you're just not performing, then they have an excuse to let you go. Not that you even need one in Colorado. We're a no fault employment and hiring place. So, mm. Anyways, and all this doom and gloom, but I will say that like even things as like having Snoop Dogg as like our mascot for the Olympics, that's huge because everybody knows Snoop Dogg smokes a lot of bud. It's always been his way. Oh, yep, there's my lunch hour. All right, or my lunchtime. I gotta get back to it. But anyways, be on the lookout. I'm going to start posting links to these Google Docs, and mainly I just wanted to kind of like vent a little bit and think, because that's all these things really are. These musings are me kind of gathering my thoughts, and then, okay, great, what do I do about that? And the next thing to do is start making these Google Docs, inviting people to look at them, inviting people to participate too. Because that's the cool thing with Google Docs is you could have any number of collaborators, and since they're all kept track of, it kind of deters people from doing anything malicious. And even if someone were to say delete everything or like write some really messed up stuff, there's a record of it. There is a log of who did it, what their IP address it what is, and when they did it. Like, it's all digitally tracked. And as a tech person that studied cybersecurity, I can honestly tell you, I feel completely confident as long as it's with a Google product because they are keeping track. It used to be a scary idea, but now it's just like, it's almost like God's watching. I'm just kidding. No, any creator, most likely it's some Martian that made us for breeding experiments. And then maybe there's a creator above that, but I don't know. Anyways, I digress. I got to get back to work. Have a happy Friday, everybody. I might hop back on later, but hopefully I'll get a few of those docs up and going. I will go ahead and share the Happy House Mushroom Spa idea on some of these because, or no, I'll do the landing page. There you go. And then I can add and take away from that. I did have one in CodePen that was basically like my plans and why I do these things, but that's kind of out of date. It's a great tool. I love it when you're learning to develop websites and stuff. But as far as like an actual working plan, Google Docs. So, all right. Ta ta for now. I will see you in the next one.